Welcome to Electric LibertyLand, here on the Lions of Liberty podcast, your weekly shot of culture, comedy, and liberty with your host, Brian McWilliams.
It's the worst noises you've probably ever heard at the start of a podcast. Welcome to Electric LibertyLand episode 2, everybody. Those of you that stuck around through my terrible noises in the start. Those are the kind of noises you hear when you open up your dorm room when you come home too early and you find your roommate masturbating. Those are the noises you were treated to there. So welcome to the show, everybody. Guys, this is the second episode. So that means you can go to lionsofliberty.com/ELL2 if you want to access the show notes. I'll include those for all the stories we talk about today. Also, while I've got your attention here, guys, if you don't mind, if you have some time, you go on iTunes, maybe give us a nice review, maybe a nice 5-star review. Maybe even type some letters in there if your fingers are feeling frisky. And additionally, please do check out Mark Claire and his in-depth interviews on Mondays. Felony Fridays, every Friday. Shocking. Yes, I know, considering the name of the show. With my guest today, John Odie Odermatt. That looks at the criminal justice system. Typically, we're kind of crapping on a lot of things that happen there because there's not a lot to love. But that is every Friday. I encourage you to check that out. It's pretty fascinating stuff. Now, guys, peek behind the curtain. I record this show typically on Mondays or at least a day ahead of time before it airs because I got to edit this bastard. And a lot of things happen sometimes in the news. Today's one of those days. Naturally, all the best news came out on Tuesday. So I'm going to fly alone here, flying solo before I bring in Odie in his pre-recorded segment. So I got to hit some of these stories. They're just like, bam, pow, right in your face. So first things first. Judiciary Committee confirmation hearings for Senator Jeff Sessions, Republican from Alabama. He is being nominated for Attorney General, and they were giving him the grilling. I mean, look, Sessions has a lot of issues to hate, especially for libertarians. The primary one being his opposition to the war, or say his huge favor to the war on drugs and opposition to putting, say, anything in your body that the government doesn't condone. But he's got some other foibles. I'll get back to that in a second. One of which is that people were really grilling him about his associations with the KKK and how he felt about them. This comes from some of the stuff he said in his past. He criticized the NAACP previously because he said that they were un-American. And he also made a joke because he was working a case one time. He made a joke that this black guy had gotten lynched by the KKK. And he goes, he found out that after they lynched this poor man, they went out and smoked pot. And so he joked to people in the room, you know what? I kind of liked the KKK before I realized they smoked pot. Now, admittedly, it's a joke. Depending on your sensibilities, it could even be considered a funny joke. But, you can see where that could be problematic for old Jeff there. So when he's on the stand today, he had to boldly condemn the KKK, which, of course, at this point, Jeff Sessions boldly condemning the KKK is like me boldly condemning alcohol over the first 2 weeks of January every year before I fall right back off the wagon. So we'll see if people fly with that. Now, the thing about Jeff Sessions, though, that really pissed me off is that that joke, the KKK joke's a perfect example of his thinking and why we all need to be so worried about him. He makes a joke that, the KKK, then they go out and smoke pot. But let's just stop and take a think about the tactics that the war on drug uses and how similar those are to the tactics the KKK uses. Let's see. Kicking in people's doors in the middle of the night? Yup. KKK did that. So does government stooges when they want to kick in your door and do drug raids in the middle of the night. Let's see. Do they ruin the lives of black men? Yes, they certainly do. Do they take the lives of black men? Yes, they certainly do, considering the fact that justice is not applied equally across the spectrum and how many black men have been put in prison for life because of the war on drugs. So, hey, Jeff, maybe you have a lot more ties to the KKK than we like to think about. Just want to point that out. And not only that, I also want to mention that Jeff also thinks that porn people, is a health hazard, just like the nutbags in Utah do. So Jeff thinks that there should be a special Justice Department unit to prosecute obscenity laws. And, I'm guessing now it's public health, right? Sessions going to fold that into CDC. I'm sure we'll see a new CSI show coming out, a new CSI Special Victims Unit, be called like Justice Department, CDC, SCI, CV, VSU, Bader haters, something like that. Just, God, it drives me insane, though. So the man, not only that, though, he said he's going to vigorously enforce obscenity laws. And by the way, who the hell uses the term vigorously if you're not talking about a sexual act? The only time you ever use vigorously is if you're like, I was vigorously giving it to that girl. Like, that's a Trump phrase. I was vigorously giving it to her. Anyway, screw Jeff Sessions. Alabama just got their asses handed to them. Well, not handed to them, but still, they lost in the championship game for the football. I'm hoping Alabama gets dealt a second defeat. Send this asshole home, please. Second thing, guys, got to hit on South Carolina church shooter Dylan Roof was the first ever to receive a death sentence, a federal death sentence for a hate crime. Now, look, I'm not saying that I think he should not necessarily not die. I mean, clearly the man is disturbed, unapologetic. He killed 9 people in cold blood. And I mean, look, if they're going to kill him, guy's name's Dylan Roof. Can we burn him at the stake just for the headline? D-Roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let that mother burn. You know what I'm saying? But still, what I have to ask myself is, this is a hate crime, okay? If this wasn't a hate crime, quote unquote hate crime, and it was 9 white people killed, would they still have gotten death sentence? If we have to ask if categories and action based on race warrants death versus life in prison, because he would have gotten life in prison for sure. But saying this is a hate crime, that probably kicked this up into him being put to death. I mean, let's be perfectly honest with ourselves. Is that something that's right? Using this word as a random assignment that this is now a hate crime. I mean, because there's people that it won't be so cut and dry that'll be accused of a hate crime that may not have done it out of hate, that may not have, they may be innocent. I don't know. But we're saying now we're going to put him to death. Now this precedent's been set because it's a hate crime. We're going to put him to death. And, look at this, guys. Don't follow in his footsteps. Don't you shoot people of another race. I just think it's a little bit questionable. Last thing I got to talk about, and my God, did this blow the internet up? But so this report got leaked from, it's been circulating around the 8 congressmen and Obama and to Trump. And apparently it's been in the intelligence community for weeks and months, though. John McCain had it months ago from what I read. But there's a report about Trump allegedly having ties to Russian governments, agents. And basically this comes from an ex-MI6 agent that apparently they believe, they trust him. So fine. It's still, none of this can be confirmed. But in the report, it alleges that, among other things, that Donald Trump was offered business deals from the Russian government, which he turned down to his credit. He, I guess, knew it was a trap. But that also it's contending that his lawyer, a man named Cohen, had been getting information from Russian agents during the campaign. Now, that, if true, is problematic. However, I don't know what you're going to do about it at this point. It's not like you're going to rescind what's happened. It's not like Hillary Clinton is going to get the presidency because of it. So again, this is kind of an exercise in futility. And I'm sure this was leaked by, somebody on the Democratic side. This may have been leaked right now in retaliation for Trump's statement about the intelligence community in regards to the DNC hacking. That would not shock me in any way. But the one thing I do have to talk about here, because there is a little gem nugget hidden in this report, is that apparently Donald Trump went to Russia and stayed in a hotel. And the FSB, which is the KGB's new name, the FSB had, monitors and microphones in this room. It's a very popular room, stated by dignitaries all over the place. And the Obamas had previously stayed there, and I guess are known to stay in this one hotel room. So Trump, being Trump, allegedly goes in there and he's like, screw the Obamas. I hate those scumbags. So he hires a bunch of Russian prostitutes to come to the room and do a golden shower show on the bed to thoroughly defile the bed. I'm sorry, it's so funny. To thoroughly defile the bed they slept in, and I guess in the hopes that they would come back later and sleep in this hooker pee bed. Now, I don't know if that means Donald Trump wanted to get peed on, if he's a part of getting peed on, if that's his fetish thing or not. I was adding up a little bit. Let's be honest. You heard that old joke, Ivana Tinkle. I was thinking about that, like Ivana Tinkle, Ivanka Trump. Ivanka Tinkle, it all adds up. It all makes sense. But either way, look, if man wants to get peed on, I don't give a damn. And this also comes, by the way, today when the federal government just put the kibosh on Backpages.com, which is where all the escorts had been posting their services since they cracked down on Craigslist, which is also ridiculous. People want to sell their bodies. Let them do what they want to do. I'm sure the Russian government's not cracking down on RuskiPages.com or whatever they want to call it, Rusky Butts. So anyway, it's a hilarious story. I think it's all BS when we get down to brass tacks at the peeing on people, but it is hilarious. And thank you, Donald Trump. Gift that keeps on giving for us in the comedic vein. All I know is day number 1. Ready? Cutscene. Day number 1. Trump gets in the Oval Office. Obama's sitting behind the desk. And I just hope Trump walks up to Obama, looks him straight in the eye and goes, "You're in my seat." So with me, as mentioned, guys, is John Odermatt of Felony Friday. Odie, how you doing, my friend?
It is fantastic to be here, finally, on Electric LibertyLand.
Finally, this is the second episode.
Yeah. I guess I was a little bit hurt that you put Rico on first.
Rico just happened to be in town, man. You know, whoever's sleeping on the couch is the first guest. That's 101 booking, people. I live in Hollywood. Trust me, this is how it happens. Whoever slept on Jimmy Kimmel's couch last night, it was who's on today's show.
There you go.
You heard it here first. Wonderful. Secrets of the Stars.
So when Rico sleeps on your couch, does he urinate in your plants or does he go to the bathroom?
He typically just does it right on the couch. We've got a lot of soaked in memories there. If you really, if you go down, you can see, the different eras as far as the meals he's had. You can tell, really you can get in there. I don't recommend it. And in fact,
too much information.
If you want to send some gifts to the Lions of Liberty, sheets would be great. It'd be great to have some rubber sheets to check on that in the future. Or maybe we should post a poll in the forum, and you can go, guys. You can go and join our forum. Go to Facebook, just type in Lions of Liberty Forum, and bam, you are a member of our forum, essentially, unless you look like a psychopath or maybe look like you have you might be a Nigerian rapper. We don't let those people in. It's an amazing amount of them. Nigerian rappers.
Typically, if we can't understand anything in your profile, if it's in another language and there's nothing even at all liberty related, typically you're not going to get in.
Yeah. That's a good rule of thumb. And if you have more than one picture of a tiger, also not getting in. Rejected a lot of those. All right, so let's get down to it. What do you think, Odie? You ready for this? You ready to do some boogieing through this Electric LibertyLand?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready. I love the intro music, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I'm ready to boogie.
Get funky, man. Get through the hump. It's the weekend hump. Help people.
Absolutely.
All right, so first thing I want to talk about, guys. So we're recording this, behind the curtain, a couple of days ahead of time before it's going to air. Got to edit all these fantastic sound effects in, and Austin Peterson has caused a bit of a stir. I mean, it's a week of stirs. If you're a Lions of Liberty fan, you heard, the Nicholas Sarwark interview, of course, has caused the great libertarian rift of 2017. I'm not going to go into that here because it's going to be discussed ad nauseum in our forum and in an episode upcoming. But the new thing that is ripping libertarians asunder is that Austin Peterson has basically thrown it out there that he might consider running for the Republican Party in certain seats. Now, the question is, with that, obviously Austin Peterson has not been a huge member of the libertarian movement as far as public eye goes until this year. I mean, he kind of rose up just out of nowhere, shocking people. He was known as more of an internet troll, a libertarian troll, if you will. And then he kind of won people over. He won me over with his performances in the debates and a real knowledge of libertarianism, even if some of his quotes kind of seemed a little bit canned. But still, he knew his book learning for libertarianism. And so he developed a lot of fans. He had a lot of support. And now he is throwing it out there saying, well, look, maybe I want to run Republican. And I don't know if you saw a lot of the talk in the forum, or I saw one meme out there that was one that he made himself. And it's him like a downtrodden heap of dump in a puddle, and it's got all the negatives about libertarians if you run as a libertarian, like the Aleppo moment, like naked people running around in the goddamn libertarian convention, like a lack of mainstream media coverage. And then on the Republican side, it's got well known and Rand Paul and Justin Amash and all this stuff. So after my rambling there to introduce it, the question is, what do you think? I mean, should libertarians say, yes, I'm going to run as a Republican and dump the Libertarian Party? Or, is it better to do that? Or is it better to stand up and say, no, we need to grow the Libertarian Party as libertarians notably as that party?
It's tough. I'm not sure if there's one correct answer. I think the most important thing is what are Austin Peterson's intentions? If he really wants to be elected into the Senate, the only way he's going to do that this next election cycle, or even the one after that, likely, or even probably the one after that, is through the Republican Party, through a major party. The Libertarian Party is just not built up enough to actually get a senator elected with that LP label. Libertarian Party doesn't have the infrastructure, doesn't have the money, doesn't have the resources. So there's really no way possible that's going to happen. So if his number one priority is to become a U.S. senator, then he's got to do it in the Republican Party. Now, I mean, the question is, if he wants to advance liberty, how much can you really advance liberty within the Republican Party? Obviously, you're not going to advance it legislatively if you're not going to get elected as a libertarian either. But at least if he gets elected as a Republican, we've seen with Rand Paul with his filibusters, and Justin Amash with his social media tweeting and talking about every bill and really going into details and breaking them down from a libertarian perspective. You can still, and of course with Ron Paul, the number one there, libertarian Republican. Yeah. Of course, you can communicate the ideas of liberty through that Republican platform, but there are so many just insane other Republicans in that party who want to have never-ending war, who want to have some small government rhetoric, some low tax rhetoric, and then raise taxes and spend big money. So the libertarian message can easily get lost in there as well.
Well, you're basically damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean,
pretty much.
As a libertarian, I can see both sides of the argument. I agree. I mean, I'm not going to hold anything against him, honestly, if he runs as a Republican. I'm fine with it. Like you said, there's a lot of good that can be done. And certain people believe that you can get up inside, you get up all inside of that and work your magic
inside the Republican Party.
Yeah, exactly. Get
pregnant.
Get it exactly right, man. Put some libertarian babies up in that Republican belly, and then slowly work from the inside out. Kind of like the movie. Like the movie Species. Get up in there, Alien. Put that alien baby in there, and then we can burst out of the chest of the Republican Party, shrieking, and then take over the whole spaceship and have several sequels. So, I can see that side of it, and it makes sense to me. But at the same time, the problem is saying, look, no one's going to listen to me as a libertarian, is that the same number of people are probably not going to listen to you as a Republican that might have listened to you as a libertarian. I mean, I guess we're basically, if we're de facto saying, okay, you know what, you can run as a Republican, as a libertarian, we are basically admitting defeat in reaching progressives. And I don't know if I am okay with that or not. I might be okay with that, because I was just listening to Dave Smith on Part of the Problem, and he had one episode that was called "The Left is Irredeemable." And I agree with him. They've gotten to the point with the rhetoric that it's gone so far. And you and I talk about this on an episode of Felony Friday that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks, about this whole kidnapping thing with these teenagers. And I blamed the Democrats for a lot of what's happening, that they've demonized people. And the left, in a large part, has gone down that road so freaking far that I don't know if you could ever bring them back. So maybe we should just be concentrating on trying to infiltrate the Republican Party after all.
Yeah, it's tough. There's no clear-cut answer. And it really just does depend on what Austin Peterson's intentions are. And if he's going to become elected as a Republican, he's going to have to water down the message. He's not going to be able to be, I think he's in Kansas, I believe. He's not going to be able to be elected as a U.S. Senator in Kansas with a pure libertarian message, similar to the message that he ran on for the Libertarian POTUS nomination. It's just not going to happen. People are not ready for it. They don't understand it. They don't understand the principles of liberty. They don't understand how government could work without coercion. It's just not. It hasn't advanced far enough for people nationwide, statewide, in a state like Kansas to really grasp the principles. So he'll have to change his message. So with a watered down libertarian message in the Senate, just like we've seen with Rand Paul and in Congress with Amash and in Congress with Massey, is that as good as having Austin Peterson running for LP president again and maybe getting the nomination and getting 7% of the vote? Which is better? I don't know. I don't know which is better. I don't know which reaches more people.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm with you. I mean, I would edge towards saying, look, if he legitimately thinks he can get a Senate seat, I say go for it. You do you, boo-boo. Get the hell in there and then work your magic from the inside out. But I mean, I think it'd be a long shot either way, to be honest. I mean, in the Libertarian Party, he rubbed people the wrong way. And I mean, God knows we love being rubbed the wrong way. This whole Sarwark thing has shown that.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, man. He's a personality that you have to grow to love, and that's when he's saying everything that you agree with 95% of it. If he's going out there and trying to convert people with his message and they're not getting half of what he's saying, it may not work out too well.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to another thing, which was, Odie asked me to begin with. I said, okay, here's the order we're going to go in. And then I immediately abandoned the order. You like how I did that?
That's what I love about this show. Keep me on my toes.
That's right, man. It's unexpected. So let's talk about the Golden Globes were last night here in Los Angeles, and Meryl Streep, who is very well respected as an actress, which is very nice. I loved her in the movie Defending Your Life. Fantastic film. But she, of course, got the Cecil B. DeMille Award and went up on stage. And just like Leonardo DiCaprio did at the Oscars, she decided that this was her moment to shine and really just make a liberal ass out of herself by going balls deep on talking about how Hollywood was vilified. And let's just take a quick listen of the start of this speech.
You and all of us in this room really belong to the most vilified segments in American society right now. Think about it. Hollywood, foreigners, and the press. But who are we? And what is Hollywood anyway? It's just a bunch of people from other places. I was born and raised and educated in the public schools of New Jersey. Viola was born in a sharecropper's cabin in South Carolina.
Sharecropper's cabin. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Her basically, long story short, all of her friends, Natalie Portman was born in Jerusalem. Where are their birth certificates? She asked. Making the point that, they're from all over, so why do we care that they're foreigners? Dev Patel was born in Kenya.
Nope. Nobody cares about their birth certificates because they're actors. They're legal. We don't give a shit.
And they're here legally. Yeah. They got permits provided for them because they're actors in an industry that got them green cards and permits. I mean, look, I'm not against immigration, but I mean, come on, lady, really? This is the point you're trying to make?
She's stupid.
It's so stupid. But okay, so it gets worse. It gets much, much worse. So she's talking about performances and yada yada, but there's one performance that really it put hooks in her heart, not because it was good. There's nothing good about it. It was effective and it did its job. It made its intended audience laugh and show their teeth. And of course, she's talking about Donald Trump. She talks about how he took the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, which, by the way, is BS. I looked into this extensively, and Donald Trump has made the same gesture. Not to defend Donald Trump overly here, but it's just a ridiculous narrative. Makes me angry.
Yeah, well, I will say on that, I've looked into it as well. And when he first did it, I did think he was mocking the guy's disability back in the primary. But it's stuff that he does. He makes ridiculous mannerisms, and he's always waving his arms around, looking like a complete ridiculous moron.
Yeah, I watched this whole video breaking it down, and I'll find it. I'll link to it in the show notes. And yeah, it's just him. He does it all the time. He makes this it's like his scared weak face. It's like an animal or something. It just happens to be this guy's got a disability, but they made a big deal of it. So long story short, she's talking about how ridiculous it is. How she's talking about how they are vilified, how Hollywood is vilified more than anyone else. And how she calls upon the quote unquote principled press to stand up and tell the truth and to take him down. And meanwhile, she's saying all of this without irony. She's not realizing that Hollywood is vilified because of this exact shit that they pull. The whole South Park episode where George Clooney's cloud of smug was ruining the world, that comes from this kind of sentiment. And you know what? Coincidentally, it was very foggy and rainy and dark in LA today. So the smug cloud was here, raining down on us all damn day. But it's like, how do you say we're so vilified but yet we're so right and not realize that this is what's making it worse? I mean, this is essentially, it's like if terrorists went out and if terrorists cared what people thought about them, right? And they're like, God, I just don't get why people hate us so much. And then he's like, oh, well, and then they blow up another bus. I mean, you were watching this live, right?
It's almost like it was almost like it was a parody of itself. I don't understand how a human being can be so tone deaf as to the words coming out of their mouth. And one of the lines that it's probably coming up pretty soon here, you were reading through some of the speech. One of the lines that jumped out to me, and when I heard it read, of course, she's talking about Donald Trump, and I'll read it here in a second. But just think about who else could this be representing as I read this.
Mm-hmm.
Disrespect invites disrespect. Violence incites violence. When the powerful use their position to bully others, we all lose. Do you have an image of anyone else in your mind when that's read?
Tell me.
Maybe every president in the past, I don't know, 50, 60, 80 years.
Yeah, exactly. Just break it out again in 4 years, Meryl. Yeah, but like you said, it's completely tone deaf. There's no self-awareness in any way in any of this. And it is a bit of parody. It's an echo chamber that exists in Hollywood and in these progressive circles where, I mean, Meryl Streep, look, do you honestly think anybody in the past 35, 40 years has said boo to Meryl Streep about any opinion she's had?
Probably not, unfortunately.
No,
I know Vince Vaughn was booing in his mind as he.
Oh God, I know. Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson. Vince Vaughn's face was fantastic. I'm a little annoyed they didn't cite him being a libertarian and not a conservative. They're like the conservative table, but yeah, he expressed the sentiment that we were feeling when we saw this drivel spilling out of Meryl Streep's mouth. But yeah, sycophants, you know. So that just was ridiculous. And it's just, it makes it worse. It makes everybody's going to hate Hollywood even more now. And they don't get it. I mean, she's speaking to a room of her peers and that's it. She's not considering anybody else in America, which is ironic considering that, I'm sorry, most of the money made in most of her movies probably comes from a lot of middle America. It probably comes from a lot of red states, the people that she's bashing. That's probably who's paying to see Meryl Streep movies. That's who's going to the movies in droves still, because people on the coast like me in California, we don't go to the movies that much. We got other things to do.
I don't go to the movies. I live in, I guess, technically middle America in Pittsburgh, and I go to a movie like maybe once every 2 years. Right. But I think that's what she was trying to do at the onset of her speech there, saying that, yes, us actors, we're just like you. We grow up in houses. we go to public schools. We're just like you. We're no different.
It's like, yeah, I'm sure. Meryl, you went to a public school. Where did your kids go? Because I know they ain't going to Venice High. That's for damn sure. Dustin Hoffman sent his kids to Los Angeles High School, and Dustin Hoffman went to Los Angeles High School. No,
interesting facts here. Interesting fact.
But yeah, none of these kids, they're they're not doing any of that because the schools here are terrible. They would never allow their children to be to elbow with the commoners in Los Angeles. That much I can assure you of. So just awful, disturbing crap from Meryl Streep. Anything else on that? Otherwise, I'll move on. I just had to touch on it.
I'll just say one thing having to do with that. So obviously, Trump responded to it with tweets, as he always does. And there's been a lot of backlash in the media, which of course there is. Whenever Donald Trump tweets, people get upset. You know, a president-elect, a guy that's going to be a president in a couple of weeks shouldn't be tweeting, shouldn't be responding to an actress's criticism.
I do agree with that.
But you know what? I don't care. Why not? Why can't he respond to it? I don't care if he's the president-elect or if he's the president. If somebody criticizes you and outright lies about you, you should respond and call them out. I mean, I have no problem at all whatsoever with Donald Trump's tweeting. I wish he would refine it just a little bit, but I think it's fantastic that he tweets and people can just read it directly, and it's not going through the mouthpiece media for them to, and they still try to spin it and, you know, get their take on it or
of course they
whatever. Do. But anyway, I think it's good, and I think it's setting a precedent for presidents going forward.
See, I have less, I don't mind the tweeting, but I do mind specifically, like, because here's my problem with this is that I actually like his Twitter diplomacy, or as I call it, toilet diplomacy, because I'm sure half the time he's taking dumps while he's tweeting. But my problem is that the more you tweet in response to stuff like this, the more flack that you can get when you don't tweet in response to stuff like this. You know, so it's kind of like you're setting yourself up. Again, this is a lesson in PR. In a way, if you consistently respond, you're setting a pattern in people's mind. And when you do not, when you don't obey your own pattern, and God knows Trump doesn't have a pattern necessarily, but it's something where he's now going to get criticized whenever he doesn't reply and say, "Oh, yeah, Trump was conspicuously silent on Twitter. Have his people shut him down?" You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it was on Joe Rogan. Bill Burr was talking about Trump tweeting, and he painted the picture of what you can imagine when you read one of Trump's tweets, what he's doing. He's probably in his home with no shoes on, just with those like knee-high black socks, gold tip socks, just in his underwear and a button-down white shirt on, just pacing around, tweeting on his phone. That's probably exactly what he's doing.
I certainly hope so. I can't wait till he gets in the Oval Office. I hope he has the curtains open the entire time, just in his boxer shorts back and forth. All right, so I want to go to something with a little bit more meat on its bones. So Donald Trump Jr., yes, Jr., made some news because he has been making a push along with some of the gun manufacturing industry, basically to make it easier to get silencers. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't have any issue with somebody trying to make silencers easier to get. I mean, there's wait, hold on. You know what? Hold on. Let me throw it to commercial real quick, Odie.
Wow,
I apologize.
Awesome.
Yeah, hold on one sec. Let me roll the commercial, and then we'll be right back, guys, with the Electric LibertyLand. Hi, I'm Donald Trump Jr., and I want to talk to you about my brand new silencers, Trump Thwumps. Are you tired of this? Hurry, stop shooting so loud! You're making me crazy! Shut up! Or just wonder how you're going to quietly kill your soon-to-be president father for his inheritance with today's non-silent guns? Worry no more with Trump Thwumps, the silencer from DT Jr. Go from bringing down the Secret Service on your head to a nice soothing thwump as your bullet leaves the chamber. Trump Thwumps, the thwumps from Trump. They're going to be huge. All right, and we're back.
Wow.
Got to pay the bills. Got to pay the bills here on ELL.
That was quite a commercial there. Wow.
You know what, man? It's a new show, and I don't book the commercials. Mark Claire books the commercials, so you can blame him for the pure coincidence that we happen to share this commercial right now. So you can email Mark at lionsofliberty.com with any complaints.
I didn't realize Donald Trump Jr. had such a lisp.
You know what? It's when you listen to a lot of his interviews, it comes out. It's surprising. Yeah. He's got a little bit of a speech impediment there. He's got a little Bill Weldy lisp.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's there, man. I don't know why. It's privilege. It's from eating too much caviar, not enough hard foods. Probably his teeth have gotten soft.
So passionate about the silencers or suppressors. I guess
he is the suppressors. Yeah. Well, look, he's in this. There's a Washington Post story I was reading, and it's literally he's out. He's in a video talking with one of these manufacturers of suppressors, and they're trying to push it through. And they've got some congressmen behind them. Basically, they're billing it as a health thing, saying that it helps your ears. You know, it's better for you. And it's not as loud and it's going to protect your eardrums and all that stuff. But you know what? The thing for me is I don't really give a damn if it protects your ears or not. If people want to buy a silencer for their gun, they should be able to buy a silencer for their gun. I don't care what they're using it for. If they're using it for hunting and they think it'll scare the deer a little bit less when they fire and they won't hear it as far away, I say great. I mean, you're a gun owner. What do you think of that?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I want to be able to reduce the noise on my weapon when I'm sighting it in, when I'm firing lots of rounds. I am wearing hearing protection, of course, but still, nothing cancels everything out. And when I'm out hunting, you don't wear hearing protection. So, if you have to shoot at a deer twice or, 3 times, you're getting 3 shots with no hearing protection. You can't hear you ringing in your ears. I'm all for suppressors. Heck, if they had them up before amplifiers, you can make them louder. You should be able to do whatever you want to with a firearm, right, as long as you're not harming anyone else.
Exactly right. And that's what drives me nuts about the fact that it's so hard to get a suppressor to begin with. Because why? Oh, because of James Bond. You see that, which is BS anyway. If you've ever heard a gun fired with a suppressor, it's not that quiet. It's not like it's not that
is a gross misrepresentation.
It's like no,
I can't say that word.
Misrepresentation.
Misrepresentation.
Yeah, exactly. The people can hear you several city blocks away if you're firing a gun with a suppressor on it. Yeah. So that's all just BS anyway. But yeah, it's just these people, they see it, they go, oh no, we can't have that because it'll be so much easier for people to quietly murder people. And it's like, so you're making a bill, or you're putting all these regulations on an industry based upon a theoretical assessment of what somebody could do with this thing, which you've never used. You don't even really know how it works. But God knows, let's put all these restrictions in place.
So I guess the liberals think that if there wasn't this restriction, there would be all these people being murdered. Like, the only thing stopping these people from sneaking around and murdering people in silence,
yes,
is not allowing these suppressors.
Exactly right. Look, these suppressors. This is the DUI of murder. They're aggressively getting in front of the game. They're saying, no, we have to stop. We need checkpoints. Yeah, it's just so stupid. And it's surprising that Donald Trump Jr. is so passionate about this one cause, but
I think it's awesome. I think it's great he's passionate about it.
Yeah, and it's, hey, look, I'm not crapping on it. I'm not crapoing on it because Senator Mike Crapo, Republican from Idaho, is behind the bill. But yeah, good to see. You know, I hope it passes. More silencers.
I think it will. I mean, why wouldn't it pass? You got a Republican House, Republican Senate. This is a very it's not like they're changing that much. All they're doing is tweaking something to make suppressors easier to get.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I say go for it, Donald Jr. Good job, buddy. Speaking of the Donald, Big Donald, here's a great story, man. Rand Paul and Donald Trump were not best friends going through the debates. I don't know if you saw that. But
yeah, I saw him making fun of his hair and maybe his face at a couple different times.
I think that I might be making this up. I probably am, but I think at one point maybe Donald Trump gestured to his armpit hair and Rand's head. But yeah, they were not on good terms. Yet Donald and Rand spoke, and apparently the Donald is backing up Rand Paul's plan. Well, no, I can't even say plan. It's not a plan. He's backing up Rand's assessment that they should not repeal Obamacare before they have a replacement in place. And I guess I'm giving Trump too much credit because this will be a Trump or dump. So just keep that in mind as we're discussing this, and we'll assess it.
Indeed.
But, I don't want to give him too much credit because it just sounds like it makes the most sense. If Rand wants to say, well, let's not just rip this thing out from under people and pull the rug out and have them fall on their asses and then have no way to pay for the broken bones in their pelvis that they've fallen on. It makes sense to say, why don't we wait until there's something in place? As much as I hate Obamacare. But what do you think? Is this a sign of good things to come? Could you see these two being unlikely allies, not only in this, but in more things to come after this?
Oh, I definitely think so. I think when we start talking about foreign policy, they could definitely have some overlap there. But to talk about this repeal and replace, I think it's not really accurate altogether. Sure, you can repeal. They're going to repeal aspects of Obamacare. I don't think they're going to rip the whole thing out. But they're not really going to. Nothing's going to replace it. What they're talking about is putting some measures in place that should help to drive down the price and make it easier for people to get health insurance. They're not really replacing it with another, Trump care or Paul care or something. I think there's a couple things that they're talking about doing, which Trump talked about and Rand's talked about for a long time, is making it so insurance companies can deal across state lines. Right? They want to make
Rico, hold on. Rico and I were talking about this, and Rico pointed out that he doesn't think that even if they allowed people to deal across state lines, the individual states themselves have individual requirements for insurance coverage that could make that an impossibility.
Well, maybe to some degree, but I know, like, for example, with my employer now, I live, I'm in Pittsburgh, and we have people that, live in West Virginia and Ohio and drive in to work in Pittsburgh. So our insurance carrier today offers insurance in those three states, depending on where you live. So, there's definitely ways around it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm just pointing it out. It was on our last episode. ELL, by the way, lionsofliberty.com/ELL1.
I was just going to say, I'm sure a state like California, for example, they probably have some crazy shit where you can't sell insurance in their state unless you meet so many made up requirements that have paid off the politicians.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. You can't even bring it. They have taxes upon taxes here. If you buy something out of state, you still have to pay retroactive taxes and stuff. It's ridiculous. But yes, I agree with you. I hope this is a sign to come that they can work together more. Because Rand's, as we know, is one of the leading libertarian voices. Most of what he's going to put on the table is going to be good for liberty. Granted, some of his stuff is not so great. And he and Trump seem to see eye to eye on Israel most of the time, which drives me up the damn wall. But I'll say it's a Trump.
I It's definitely a Trump. How could it not be a Trump?
No, it's a Trump.
Of course. I mean, putting these things in place, another thing they want to do is, which I'm a big fan of, is raising the limit on HSAs. I'm a big fan of HSAs, healthcare savings accounts. I wish they would go farther in that and just make all healthcare, medical related expenses completely 100% tax deductible. But this is, step in the right direction. I'm for it. Definitely Trump.
That was actually in Trump's tax plan that I read before, was that he was talking about making tax care deductible, or basically all healthcare for, at least children and the elderly was going to be tax deductible. So I think that partially is in there. I know health savings accounts is one of the things that he wants to increase. So yeah, man, it's definitely an encouraging sign. It also, give Trump credit on this regard as well. The man has said through and through that he is a negotiator. He'll talk crap about somebody one day, and then the next day he will more than happily sit down and talk to them about it. And no matter what you think about Trump, and a lot of people have a lot of horrible things to say, you got to give him credit for that. He sat down with Rand, even though they had an acrimonious relationship. They spoke, they agreed on something, and now they're moving forward, and they're publicly saying, yes, we agree on this thing. So, I mean, it takes a lot of, I don't even know what you call it, integrity. I hate to use the word integrity in Donald Trump, but it takes a lot of integrity to say, I don't care. I'm fine with sitting down with you. I know I said these things, but I could be wrong. I want to hear what you have to say. Let's dish it out together one-on-one.
Yeah, I think he's a populist overall, and he wants to be popular. And if he just repeals Obamacare and doesn't, encourage a climate for there to be, more affordable insurance that people can get, then it's going to be a bad thing. This is kind of on topic. I don't know if you sent me the article you sent me for this Trump Rand collaboration is from Talking Point Memo.
Oh yeah,
Talking Points Memo. Then the author, I don't know if you looked down at the author who wrote this. Her name is Allegra Kirkland.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a picture of someone that their name fit their picture so much.
She does look like an Allegra Kirkland.
She definitely looks like an Allegra.
She is she's a very attractive young lady. I will say that. Yeah, you might want to check her out.
Got to agree. Check out the Talking Point Memos. Talking Points Memos, whatever it is.
Yeah, very interesting. But yeah, she does look like an Allegra. Well, she looks like she's got some, is that an Italian name? Allegra? Allegra.
I don't know.
Offending every Italian who listens to this podcast. Send me your name. Send me your names to read on air, and I'll gladly offend you and your culture. Send them in. Yeah. Well, let's do one more quickie here. So I full disclosure, I am a guy that is skeptical, not of global warming in general, because I'm undecided. The temperature goes up. I just don't know what regard that has to do with man's CO2, how much impact CO2 has on the environment. I'm very, very skeptical of climate models, considering that none of them have actually ever worked in any way, shape, or form. Yet we obviously base massive regulations upon these climate models that are failures. So it came out on January 3rd that Judith Curry, who was one of the big leaders in climate science, more so on the side that argues that people that are skeptical of the current accepted quote unquote consensus need to be heard, and that the industry is as a whole completely politicized and is attuned to basically decry anybody that has any dissenting opinion without actually examining the science behind it. So Judith Curry effectively resigned on January 1st from Georgia Tech, where she was very high up. She was at one point one of the, really essentially one of the highest of this school. She was the chair of the School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at the Georgia Institute of Technology. She then went on to serve on, I think she's still in the NASA I think she's still on the NASA Advisory Council for Earth Science. She's spoken to Congress many, many times and Senate many, many times. She even had a position at Penn State University, my friend. And
did she really?
Yes, she did. So she effectively resigned, and I'll I'll share this blog post that she has on her own blog, which is called Climate, Etc. But basically what Judith said is that she's hit the wall. She's tried to be the best scientist she can be. She's tried to be the most impartial scientist she can be, which is the way you should be, obviously, in science. But she said that basically she's just felt she's brought a change in the entire academic industry, and as far as seeing peer-reviewed journals and everything else, where it's turned on its head, and the animosity towards anybody that dare threaten this industry that is climate change and anthropomorphic. I'm not even going to use that word because I'm trying to use right. That has threatened climate change and this whole, just this whole industry built around CO2 and man's effect and new ways and carbon capping and everything else, where there's such a cottage industry that's been built up into this billions and billions and billions, where politicians now have risked their careers on it being correct. She just doesn't want to fight it anymore. And I, for one, I find that absolutely heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, I think it's heartbreaking to some degree, but like she said in her blog post, some would say you should try to fight it and, initiate your change from the inside, kill the beast from the inside. And I just don't think that it's worth it. I think she'll be fighting a losing battle. And she talks about in this blog post, she has some things going on in the private sector with a company she founded a few years ago with a colleague in the climate sector. And one quote she has that I think is very telling from that blog post, she says, "At this point, the private sector seems like a more honest place for a scientist working in the politicized field than universities or government labs,
yep.
At least when you're your own boss." And I think the key word there is honest. And it's really what you were talking about there with just, it's really it's a toxic environment. And for people, someone like Judith, and she's very well known within the community and respected. I'm sure she's worked her way up. For her to go against this, what they call proven climate science, which is, it's not proven at all.
Yep.
For her to really not be able to go against it, of course, younger people coming into the field, younger scientists, they have no chance. If they go against it, they'll be running on the street. Well, so it's a toxic environment.
Yeah, and she's talking about, like you said, these younger people. She mentions one in her blog as well, that talking about they come to her and they're saying that they don't want to speak out. And she tells them not to, because it's basically career suicide. She says, avoid it at all costs, do your science, but don't speak out, because it's basically like being in the closet, and these climate scientists, they are forced to stay in the closet if they dare have a dissenting opinion. And that's not what science is. I mean, the moment science becomes a politicized animal, like it has, the moment that you get to this point where you could be drummed out or disparaged and people go out of their way to trash you in the media. And these are people like Michael Mann at Penn State. He's one of the top climatologists in the world. He was found in that whole ClimateGate email scandal to be hiding data and to be colluding with other people in the industry to disavow people that had anti-climate warming views, and to have their papers thrown out and be refused to publish in journals. That's not science.
Nope.
It's just, I mean, it breaks my heart. And the fact that nobody can accept that, not nobody, but the fact that the majority of Americans and the majority of people all over the world have been brainwashed into saying, yes, this is a thing that's done and we have to keep marching on to the beat. I mean, I was talking to one friend, a very good friend of mine, very smart friend of mine. And he said his point of view is that, he goes, you know what? I'm not settled on it, but he goes, I think there's a consensus. And he goes, and even if there's only a 5% chance it could be right, I believe that we need all the regulations in place to stop it, and we need to take all the steps. And I told him, I said, that's insane. That's like playing the lottery every day, but instead of risking your money, you're risking everyone's money. You're betting third world nations' futures on this unproven percentage chance that we have no idea what the percent is. And in the meantime, you're costing other people millions and millions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars. You're destroying industries. You're trying to put the coal business out of business. I mean, it just goes beyond ridiculous into this realm of hysteria.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of ties into something I posted in the forum today, in our Lions of Liberty forum, which Brian told you how to join earlier in the show, but I'll repeat it. Go to facebook.com, punch Lions of Liberty forum in the search bar, and it'll pop up and we'll get you in. It talks, what it is it shows flowcharts and they've flowcharts for, in the US, they have them every single year, and they break it down by state as well. And also they do a lot of foreign countries, not every year, but I think the last year they did it was maybe 2013, where they'll break down in that country or in the state in the United States, all of the energy sources and what those energy sources go towards. And when you start to look at how much of our energy still comes from quote unquote fossil fuels, petroleum, natural gas, you get up coal even, and you start talking about nuclear is still a big part of it. And you look at just the tiny fraction that is solar energy and wind. As soon as you look at that, it smacks you in the face that it is impossible. It's not even a discussion point to talk about. It's impossible in the near term to transition from what we currently have, our current energy portfolio, to one that is dominated by solar or wind or some other form of renewable energy. And that's definitely tied in with what we're talking about. But they make it seem like it's just a simple change. All we have to do is just stop building these pipelines and put these regulations in and stop. No, it's really not even possible.
Billions of dollars of infrastructure that needs to be put into place. It's like Germany did it. Germany's a much, much smaller country than we are, and their electricity and basically all of their energy prices, I think, like quadrupled. I mean, it was like a shocking slap in the face how much more money it costs them, and because they're not ready for it. We're not ready for it. And people could say, look, well, yeah, we need to regulate. We need to try to, entice these industries. We need to try to smash the old ones and build up the new. But you know what'll do that better than anything? The free frickin' market. That's what'll take care of that. So stop subsidizing bad companies. Like, stop with the Cylindras of the world. Stop subsidizing all these other solar companies and wind companies. Let the free market figure it out. When they have a solution in place that is cheap and easy and can be put in without people going crazy, without losing their jobs, and without paying quadruple what they're paying for energy, it will be put into place. I promise you, world. I promise you that's what'll happen. Until then, just let things happen.
I agree. And it's funny you bring up Germany. We were asked that question because I think we talked about that on, was that Felony Friday or maybe a roundtable? We were talking about energy prices, and maybe did you bring up Germany? I don't remember.
I probably did, because that's the prime example, because they went out of their way to get off of their quote unquote fossil fuels.
Yeah, and somebody confirmed that Germany is number 2 with the most expensive energy. Number 1 is Italy, which is ironic because Italy, underneath that very country, has rich fossil fuels, natural gas, oil, and they could be an exporter, but they import everything, and it's super expensive, and that country is falling apart.
It just doesn't make any sense. The government, well, it makes perfect sense if the government is controlling who can drill where, etc. So that makes perfect sense when you look at it from our perspective. Well, Odie, I want to thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening to Electric Liberty Land. We's going to boogie on out of here. But before we do, I do want to thank Odie. You can listen to him on Felony Friday, every Friday on the Lions of Liberty podcast. You can visit the archives for that, Lions of Liberty /FF. Is that correct?
The Felony Friday archive, you can actually get to it a couple ways, but the easiest way is felonyfriday.com. So I bought that domain and I just route it right into.
When did that happen?
I don't know, about a year ago, maybe.
Oh, where have I been? Well, I usually turn off the show before you go into where to find stuff, 'cause I've heard it so many times.
Come on.
Well, hey,
thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it was great until this last part where I messed up. But yes, always good having you on this show, man. And you guys, please, you can find us. Go to follow us on Facebook, Lions of Liberty. You can obviously find us on Twitter at Lions of Liberty. It's all very easy. It's all just Lions of Liberty, guys. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Electric Liberty Land, where you are always plugged in to liberty.